It's not the bishop, though. Oh, okay. But, yes, sir.
O God, our eternal Father, we bow our heads before Thee at the commencement of these council proceedings and give Thee thanks for Thy blessings upon us and upon this land. We pray that Thou wilt hear the words spoken this night and be aware of the desires of the hearts of the people here. We are grateful for Thy blessing in providing us with good weather and health and strength. We give Thee thanks for Thy Son, Jesus Christ, and we pray that Thou wilt bless the people of this land with a desire to obey the laws of the land and to keep His commandments, that we may live after a manner of peace and kindness and forgiveness and understanding. We're grateful for the service of these council members and pray that Thou wilt bless each in their personal lives and in their families. We pray that Thou wilt bless them with wisdom and understanding the complexities of the choices placed before them, and give Thee thanks for that wisdom that Thou dost provide. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir, and I apologize for not recognizing you. Let me please remind you that if you have a cell phone or other device that goes off, to please silence it so that it doesn't go off during the meeting, and also to treat the speakers who are speaking with the same respect that you would want them to show you. So that means if you agree with them, that's fine. If you disagree with them, that's fine, but keep those emotions to yourself. Thank you very much. To my left is Councilmember David Albritton.
Good evening.
Councilmember Hoyt Hamilton.
Good evening.
Our City Attorney Pam Aiken.
Good evening.
And our City Clerk Rosemary Call.
Good evening.
To my right, Councilmember Jay Poglaze.
Good evening.
Councilmember Bob Cundiff.
Hello, folks.
Our City Manager Bill Horn.
Good evening.
And our Assistant City Manager Michael Delk.
Good evening.
Our first order of business isn't on the agenda. Council Skip Rogers, who's with the Turkey Trot and has been organizing that and running that for many years, wasn't able to come by, but he came by the office and he left us each with a mug promoting the Turkey Trot, a medal pretending like we have finished, the race, that we survived the Turkey Trot, and ask that we remind everybody that registration is open for the Turkey Trot that is held on Thanksgiving Day at Clearwater High School. It's a great way to start the celebrations for Thanksgiving, and this will be the 41st year of the Turkey Trot. Next is to recognize our two service awards. Our first honoree is Jared Hood from the Fire Department, who's been with the City of Clearwater for 10 years. Watch your steps, sir. Also from the Fire Department for 20 years of service to the city and its residents, Andrew Hawkins.
Division Chief of Training Andrew Hawkins started in the fire service as an active member and advisor in the Fire Explorer program for 10 years. He was an intern for 3 years in the department and was hired October 4th, 2019 as a career firefighter. He then served as a driver-operator in 2005 and promoted to first lieutenant in 2009. His leadership skills, attention to safety, and fire service experience made him a good fit for his latest promotion, which was in May 2016 to the Fire Division Chief. Chief Hawkins manages a multifaceted training division and supervises 3 lieutenants and a fire training officer. His team is responsible for an 8-week hands-on fire school for every recruit class before they are assigned to a permanent shift as a firefighter paramedic. Chief Hawkins and his team conduct, monitor, and remediate monthly suppression and rescue evolutions, administer quarterly officer training, and host several special team drills, which include numerous surrounding fire agencies. The multifaceted training compound consists of a 3-story live fire tower, a state-of-the-art 3-classroom educational facility, the new EOC, and an administrative center. Needless to say, he's very busy. Chief Hawkins has obtained fire service certifications to be a Blue Card Command Instructor, live fire instructor, incident safety officer, as well as multiple leadership, safety, and command certificates. Additionally, he has obtained his Bachelor of Science degree in fire administration and is working on obtaining his Chief Training Officer credentials from the International Center for Public Safety Excellence. Within his 20 years of service, Division Chief Hawkins received the Firefighter of the Year Award and Valor Award for bravery. Andrew celebrated his 17th wedding anniversary with his lovely wife Amanda this year. They enjoy one 12-year-old son, Ethan. The City of Clearwater congratulates and thanks Division Chief Hawkins on his 20 years of dedicated service to the fire department, the City of Clearwater, and its citizens.
Thank you very much, Fire Prophet. Thank you very much. Chief, good job, man. Thank you very much.
And our September Employee of the Month is Shane Miller from the Marine and Aviation Department.
Shane Miller was working overnight recently at the downtown Harbor Marina providing security services. Early in his shift, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office put out a bolo, be on the lookout, for an elder gentleman, Mr. Hughes, who has dementia and is missing possibly in the downtown Clearwater area over the radio. A few hours after the bolo was announced, Shane left the marina to go get something for his lunch. As he was exiting the area, he noticed a vehicle that matched the description of the missing gentleman, Mr. Hughes. Shane made contact with police and confirmed the identity of the missing individual. Police and fire personnel were notified and arrived on scene. Mr. Hughes was safely transported for precautionary reasons to the hospital and reunited with his wife. Shane's performance that night demonstrates an employee staying vigilant, paying attention to detail, and performing at a high level. Thank you, Shane, for making sure all of our citizens are safe. Thank you very much.
Well done, Shane. Watch that step, buddy. There you go.
Looks like Bolo was a tie. Congratulations, thank you. I'm going to call forward Michelle Edwards from the Clearwater Neighborhood Family Center for the Red Ribbon Week proclamation. Standing behind me. Whereas alcohol and drug abuse in this nation have reached epidemic stages, and whereas residents should be encouraged to support drug prevention educational programs and to remain committed to a drug-free community, and whereas the National Red Ribbon Campaign offers citizens the opportunity to affirm their commitment not to use illegal drugs and not to use drugs illegally, and whereas businesses, government, parents, law enforcement, media, medical institutions, religious institutions, schools, seniors, citizens, service organizations, and youth can demonstrate their commitment to healthy, drug-free lifestyles by wearing and displaying red ribbons during this week-long campaign. Now therefore, I, George N. Creticus, Mayor of the City of Clearwater, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim October 23 to 31 to be Red Ribbon Week in Clearwater. Thank you. Did you bring any red ribbon? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this. That's great. See you, man. Good job, buddy.
In recognition of Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we're going to ask Kirk Ray Smith from RCS and Melinda Perry from RCS to come forward. And we're not seeing Kirk here. Okay, so we have just Melinda. Great. Whereas domestic violence is a pattern of abusive behavior in any relationship that is used by one partner to gain or maintain power and control over the other. And whereas the problems of domestic abuse are not confined to any one group of people, but impact people of any economic status, age, race, and ethnicity, or sexual orientation, and are wide-ranging throughout society. And whereas the crime of domestic violence violates an individual's privacy, dignity, security, and humanity due to systematic use of physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, and economic control and or abuse. And whereas RCS Pinellas has provided support, safety, and advocacy to domestic violence survivors and their children throughout Pinellas County for more than 50 years, now therefore I, George Creticus, Mayor of the City of Clearwater, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim October 2019 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Clearwater, and urge residents to support any activity or program aimed toward the elimination of domestic violence in this community and throughout the area.
Thanks for what you do. Thank you so much.
Council, we have Beth Galick, Cliff Kuslik, and Megan Myers from the Bay Area Manufacturing Association, and some other representatives. Hurry up. Whereas manufacturing is a cornerstone of the nation and Florida's economy, and whereas manufacturing provides jobs to approximately 30,000 Pinellas County citizens, and almost 1,300 manufacturing facilities in Pinellas County make products as diverse as high-tech turbines to gourmet flavorings, and whereas the Bay Area Manufacturers Association, the Florida Advanced Technological Education Center of Excellence, St. Petersburg College, and Pinellas Technical College support manufacturing and manufacturing careers. And whereas the Bay Area Manufacturers Association, Pinellas County Schools, and others coordinate programs to strengthen technical and academic skills of young adults enrolled in manufacturing, engineering, and design courses of study. Now therefore, I, George N. Creticus, Mayor of the City of Clearwater, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim October 2019 to be Manufacturing Month in Clearwater, and urge all citizens to join in recognizing the value of our manufacturers and the importance they serve in our city, county, state, and nation. Thank you.
Good work. Just that. Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Good job. Watch that. Is it over? I already sprayed my ankle. Watch out.
Council of Florida, the League of Cities and the League of Mayors is promoting Florida City Government Week. And to receive that proclamation, I'm going to ask our Nicole Sprague to please come forward from our Office of Records and Legislation. And we're going to
Oh, yes, we are.
read the proclamation.
Oh, yes, we are. We're doing this.
Come here.
Okay.
Is that your good side?
Yeah.
Okay. Whereas municipal government and its elected officials is the government closest to the constituents and has the most direct daily impact on its residents. And whereas city government officials and employees have the responsibility of providing exemplary public service and of displaying the importance of volunteering in their community. And whereas the Florida League of Cities and its member cities work together to teach students and all citizens about municipal government through a variety of different projects, volunteer opportunities, and informational meetings. And whereas Florida City Government Week offers an important opportunity to convey to all citizens of Florida that they can help shape local decision-making and positively impact their hometown through civic involvement. Now therefore, I, George N. Craddock, as Mayor of the City of Clearwater, on behalf of the Clearwater City Council, do hereby proclaim October 21 through 27 to be Florida City Government Week in Clearwater. Thanks, Nicole.
Oh, thank you, Mayor.
You want to turn around so that everybody can see?
Oh, let's do that. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, this is fun.
Oh,
I'm dizzy.
can we do it all the time? No, okay. You're dizzy.
Go say hello to everybody.
We have way too much fun.
So when our public communications staff posts that on Facebook tonight or tomorrow morning, please go on, like it, share it, so that we can be the one city in Florida that has the most likes on the proclamation declaring Florida City Government Week. Councilor, are there any addition or corrections to the minutes of October the 3rd?
Move to approve the minutes.
Second?
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes of October the 3rd. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Anybody from the public wishing to speak to an item that is not on the agenda? If so, please make sure that you filled out a card and presented it to the clerk. You would have 3 minutes to speak, and we ask that you give us your name.
Lena Teixeira, 522 Cleveland Street. As some of the council may be aware, I've been on record from this very dais stating my belief in the spirit of volunteerism. With that in mind, I ask of the council for a little indulgence as I recognize a group of people for their contributions to our city. I am on the board or a member of 4 local volunteer organizations, DCMA, DDB, CDP, and Achievers. These organizations, roughly adding up to 80 members, have donated their time, talent, intellect, as well as their resources for the betterment of their city and its citizens. Therefore, I feel it is imperative to not only encourage these volunteers for their achievements, but encourage future volunteers. Now, I have been present on several council meetings where the question was asked, what has the private sector done for Clearwater? And to my knowledge, these questions have remained unanswered. I would like tonight to have the opportunity to address that question. So this morning I quickly jotted down from memory some of the accomplishments dating about 18 months to 24. And they include, but not limited to, over 60 events which promote our community, networking events, educational events that focus on women's health issues, domestic violence awareness, community issues, government initiatives. We have entered into partnerships with various charities from HEP, SPCA to C2000. We've partnered with other entities such as BACA, Chamber of Commerce, Threshers, and Capitol Theater. We have assisted in city department initiatives, painting of floor murals to clean up and set up of events, promotion, and education of city initiatives. We've also sponsored partner events such as Jazz Holiday, Blast Friday, boat races, and Sant and Suds. We've also engaged in positive storytelling through various ad campaigns via print, billboards, radio, as well as over 12 TV appearances. We've engaged actively in social media, Facebook pages, Instagram pages, websites, and social media programming and daily campaigns. Our members have brought a lot to Clearwater. Just recently, over 70 new companies, a unicorn company, a Dali Museum pop-up exhibit that has recently been recognized as Best Non-Museum Show, numerous other community awards, sponsorships, financial contributions, innovation, sustainability, educational opportunities, world-renowned artists, leaders, professionals, and thousands of employees. My hope tonight is that we can put this issue to rest and not only acknowledge those who have contributed, but to encourage future community involvement. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wishing to speak to an item that is not on the agenda? If not, I will close public comment and move to the consent agenda, items 7.1 through 7.12. Anybody from the public or the council wishing to pull an item off the consent agenda, 7.1 through 7.12?
Mayor,
Mr. Hamilton.
I apologize for not being here at the work session Monday. I had a physical limitation that prohibited it, but I did watch it on TV as it was being broadcast, and I had all the information in front of me, as we always do. And so I would like to move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda items 7.1 through 7.12. All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.1, Mr. Horn.
Declare surplus for the purpose of donation for development of affordable housing, real property located at 1304 North Madison Avenue, together with vacated right-of-way per City Ordinance 9327-19, approve the real property donation agreement between the city and Habitat for Humanity of Pinellas County, Inc., and allow the appropriate officials to execute same together with all other instruments required to effect closing. Mr. Lane.
Thank you. Chuck Lane, Assistant Director, Economic Development and Housing Department. This lot's in North Greenwood. We took title to it at no cost through foreclosure of a code lane. It lies in the southeast corner of Tangerine Street and North Madison Avenue. It's suitable for a single-family home site. Habitat for Humanity plans to build a 6-bedroom home on the site. They have a large family with several children, many of whom have special needs. I'll take questions, please.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 8.1? Anybody from the public wishing to speak to agenda item 8.1?
Motion to approve agenda item 8.1.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 8.1. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.1.
Ordinance 9327.
There is no
There's
ordinance.
no ordinance.
Tucked in the middle.
There's no ordinance.
There's
For
no
8.1, there's no
Yeah.
ordinance.
It's per city ordinance.
Sorry.
327.
8.2.
Deny amendments to the Clearwater Community Development Code to expand the geographical area within the regional center subdistrict of the US 19 district, where self-storage warehouses are currently allowed on a limited number of parcels, to allow the use on certain parcels 1.1 to 1.2 acres in area with frontage on Seville Boulevard, and do not pass ordinance number 9308-19 on first reading. Ms. Matzke.
Good evening, Lauren Matzke, Planning and Development. This is an amendment to the Community Development Code generated by a property owner seeking to use the text amendment process to give development rights to a single 1.13 acre property on Seville Boulevard within the Regional Center Subdistrict. This text amendment changes the use table in the US 19 zoning district and development standards. The property owner is requesting to amend the code because they have entered into a contract to sell the property to RK Development Partners, who would like to build a 900-unit self-storage warehouse on the site where it is currently not permitted. The Regional Center Subdistrict is comprised of over 600 parcels in 2 major activity centers that are over 900 acres in size. This amendment doesn't even apply to 1/4% of the land area in the Regional Center. The subject property is only a tiny portion of the overall regional center, but that does not mean that this amendment is insignificant. Staff understands that the subject site is challenging to develop due to a wall for the adjacent residential property to the east and a significant water line easement along the same side of the property. This is really more of a remnant parcel, but there is still about 1/2 of an acre that can be developed. As Ms. Clayton stated at work session, redevelopment takes time, and properties like this are candidates for consolidation, which can also take time as the US 19 market continues to strengthen. The Community Development Code establishes 2 criteria for text amendments, and this application does not meet either criterion. The text amendment is inconsistent with and does not further the goals, policies, and objectives of the comprehensive plan. And additionally, the text amendment does not further the purposes of the Community Development Code or other city ordinances and actions designed to implement the comprehensive plan, including the Economic Development Strategic Plan, the US 19 Corridor Redevelopment Plan, and Clearwater Greenprint. That is the basis for planning and That is the basis for Planning and Development's recommendation of denial for this application. Staff met with the applicant and their representative prior to any application being submitted. At that time, we explained that a future land use map amendment would be the appropriate application to submit if the goal was to build self-storage on this property. The property abuts the corridor subdistrict to the east and to the south, and self-storage is one of the permitted uses in that subdistrict. This is the second time an individual property owner has applied to amend the US 19 district with a narrow focus of allowing self-storage on a specially carved out portion of the regional center. This is the only use in the district in the code that is written in this manner. The property owner is using the text amendment process to try and gain development rights that are not afforded to any other property owners. The end result is like spot zoning, just through a separate process. The appropriate way to gain the rights to have this use is through the future land use map amendment process. However, because the development potential is less in the corridor subdistrict, a 1.5 floor area ratio compared to a 2.5 FAR, which may equate to about 300 fewer storage units than proposed, this clearly motivated the applicant to carve out rights that others would not have. Not only does this application give rights to one property owner for a use which others cannot also build on their property in the same subdistrict, the regional center, it also gives this property owner significant development rights for this use that others in the corridor subdistrict do not have. Approval of this application would result in an unfair advantage for one property owner over all other properties. At work session, staff was asked what else could be built on this site, noting that providing parking limits the size of development. The companion site plan provides 18 surface parking places for almost 118,000 square feet of self-storage and office or retail uses. The developer is utilizing the parking reduction factors which are established in the US 19 district. Those allow up to 25% reduction in parking if alternatives such as electric vehicle charging stations, photovoltaic, topped shade structures, or bus shelters are provided. So to answer the question, it was tricky, it's not clear cut, but utilizing 18 surface parking spaces, the parcel could potentially support 12,000 square feet of research and development, or 16 residential units, or 48 assisted living beds, or 6,000 square feet of other non-residential uses. And again, that's using the provided surface parking and the parking requirements in the code. The Planning and Development Department is recommending denial of this application today because of, or based on the 2 criteria for text amendments in the code. It is inconsistent with the comprehensive plan and many other adopted city plans and does not further the purposes of the Community Development Code. But additionally, as I've stated, we disagree with the utilization of the text amendment application as a pathway to providing rights to an individual property within the city. The Community Development Board recommended denial by a vote of 5-2, acknowledging that this was a difficult parcel to develop, but expressing concern over the applicant's choice to pursue a text amendment instead of a future land use map amendment. And with that, I can answer questions.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 8.2? Mr. Kunda.
If you could explain to my slower brain, if the applicant had used the map amendment, how would his development be limited? What could he not build that he's asking for now?
Just a moment, and I can pull up some general parameters. So as they're proposing approximately 118,000 square feet of development, that's 900 self-storage units and approximately 4,500 square feet of retail and office. I wanted to do this math quickly, so I calculated that out to be approximately 126 square feet per storage unit. So that's just an average. Obviously, those sizes would vary. Using that as a factor, in the corridor subdistrict, which is a 1.5 floor area ratio, the maximum a project could be is almost 74,000 square feet. So that is about 44,000 square feet smaller in size. That could fit using that same 126 square feet average for a storage unit, about 585 storage units. So that would be a little over 300 fewer storage units in that property.
And about, if I could just follow, and about how many stories would it take for that size lot?
Well, so as it relates to height, that's a little bit less of a concern. The regional center currently allows up to 150 feet in height, but the corridor subdistrict allows 100 feet in height. The proposed project is actually less than 100 feet, so it would meet either subdistrict's standards.
Thank you.
It's proposed at 96 feet or 8 stories.
Any other questions of Mr. Albritton?
And this is a difficult site, but in your best estimate, do you think if the applicant did do a map amendment that staff would approve it or disapprove it?
That was the question I asked the other day, and they said that was what I was asking the other day.
I think that first of all, we haven't done the detailed analysis, but when you look at the map, I think there's points that would make it more supportable because it's adjacent to the corridor. So, ultimately, we're not approving it, you would be approving it.
Well, you're denying it. I mean, you're asking us to deny it. So my question was, if they went the other route, I was led to believe during the work session that if it seemed like you were asking, if they would have done a map amendment instead of a text amendment, that it would have been approved. And I guess my question would be, is that true, or would that still be denied?
I think you can make a case to support it. But again, I want to say for the record, we did not do a full analysis of a land use plan amendment.
Okay. That's,
Yeah, no, I think yesterday you said you hadn't seen plans for the smaller version. That's why you weren't willing to commit.
No, I think we had not done an analysis of the code, the criteria for a land use plan amendment.
Okay.
Because that application hasn't been presented to us.
Okay. Any other questions, council?
Comments?
No, we're not. We have to, yeah. Okay, the applicant has an opportunity to speak now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Applicant gets 5 minutes for opening and 5 minutes for closing. I was wondering if we could consolidate that and reserve the balance of our time so we could get through our points and provide whatever remaining time we have for closing.
If you don't run over your 10 minutes, that's...
Yes, sir. I'll do my best. I'll do my best. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Brian Unk, 625 Core Street, here on behalf of the contract purchaser, RK Partners, Reed Hayden and Kevin Menendez. This application in no way inhibits or impairs the implementation of the US 19 plan. In fact, it facilitates the implementation of the goals and objectives on the US 19 plan on this very, very small, very specific site. I'm a little concerned that process is getting in the way of the merits of the case. This is a legal, valid process available to any citizen or property owner in Clearwater. The US 19 plan is unlike any other long-term plan in Clearwater. There's only US 19 zoning. There are its own specific subdistricts. There are street frontages. Any change to any property in the US 19 plan requires a text amendment as a part of the application. So even if we were to do a comprehensive county-wide plan map amendment, we would still have to do a text amendment to this map, which is in your code. So we'd still be here under this process. Keep in mind, the level 3 approval process set forth in the CDC is the same for a text amendment and the countywide map amendment. What's the difference? The difference is the countywide map amendment would require additional hearings and approval by Forward Pinellas and by the Pinellas County Commission. But this text amendment application before you today was evaluated by the Forward Pinellas staff and found to be consistent with the countywide rules. So this application that's properly before you today has already been reviewed by the county and said it's unnecessary for us to review this any further. It's consistent with our rules. So I respectfully am going to focus the rest of our time on the merits of the case, and we'll reserve any other discussion on the process for questions that you have. But the other thing I want to point out on that, I lied, sorry. The other thing I want to point out on that is that this is the same process that the staff directed the Denny's applicant to follow. The Denny's applicant was directed, follow the text amendment process. So we're doing the same exact process that was done before. On the Denny's property, it was criticized for affecting too many parcels. This text amendment affects too many parcels. We went back to the CDB twice to narrow it to only 2 parcels. This applicant, with that in mind, doesn't want to inhibit or impair the other parcels in the US 19 plan that are more appropriately less encumbered. And so that's why we're focusing on 1 parcel, because that's what we were directed to do the last time. These arguments are contradictory. The positions from the prior application to this application are contradictory. One of the things I want to focus on is that there are 1,857 new multifamily or single-family units that are within the vicinity of this site. The staff did an excellent job in the staff report, being very balanced and very fair, and I want to tell them I appreciate them for that. Ms. Matzke called me for clarification. She wanted to know what the intentions were, and I really appreciate that. One of the most important things is that Pinellas County Economic Development has done a study that shows that Pinellas County is 77% of the national average for supply of storage units, which results in developers looking for creative ways to build self-storage in Pinellas County, and the local market is challenging because of high land values and lack of available real estate that can accommodate self-storage. This is a needed use. This is a use that serves the residents and the new residents of Clearwater. Just because you live vertically doesn't make you any less of a neighbor, doesn't make you any less of a citizen of Clearwater, and this is an absolutely needed use in the city. The last thing I wanted to address is assemblage. One of the reasons the staff led us to believe that they might not necessarily support the plan map amendment is because they want this property to remain in the regional center, as Ms. Clayton stated during the work session, for possible future assemblage. We want it to stay in the regional center too, but we wanted to point out we do have that letter from Rob Booz, who owns the 7-Eleven, that property is under contract with 7-Eleven until 2038. So assemblage could take place in 20 or 30 years if it's still part of the regional center, but it's not going to be anytime soon. I'll turn it over to Mr. Hayden to address additional merits of the case.
Council members, Mayor, I wanted to start by talking about some of the site encumbrances that we've addressed before. As you can see, other than the fact it's a small and fairly awkwardly shaped site, you have the large 50-foot wide City of St. Pete easement running through it, makes developing this site a real challenge. Beyond that, there are use challenges as well because of its location.
Go ahead and keep talking.
So we looked at it for retail uses, we looked at it for office uses. The retail uses didn't work because poor traffic counts on Seville, poor visibility from US 19, and too much competition from all the retail that's surrounding it. Office, other than poor market demand and a glut of supply, it's going to require a parking garage to ever develop it to the potentials envisioned within the US 19 plan. Residentially, again, poor locations, going to require a parking garage for it to ever be developed to the potential. So we know this. We know that a parking garage on this site is not feasible because of the size and the encumbrances. And ultimately, parking will control the build-out of the site. That being said, we want to talk about what we're proposing. And at this time, we're proposing 18 parking spaces. If we, and as Lauren pointed out, based on those 18 spaces, we've pretty much almost filled up the site, but we could probably put 10 more spaces there. We could get to about 28 spaces. At the parking requirement for office and retail, that's going to leave us at about 7,000 square feet of potential office retail we could build there. What we're proposing is actually 6,000 square feet of office retail. So really, there's only a difference of 1,000 square feet of retail and office. And frankly, it's going to be the self-storage component that ensures that that office and retail will be able to survive financially. Other than that, I want to touch on the US 19 district plan. I think what is not being focused on here is that this does accomplish the plan, in our opinion. The plan is about intensities. It's about pedestrian movement. Currently, there's no sidewalk there. We're going to be putting in a sidewalk. That's per the plan. It's about transit access. It's about streetscape, building design, site layout. All these things we are designing per the plan, again. And beyond that, this is a mixed-use development. And as Brian pointed out, this is a service to the community around it.
Thank you, Mr. Hayden. At this point, we'll reserve the balance of our time and answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Any questions of the applicant? No questions?
I just have
Mr.
one
Condon.
question, sir. What response have you had from the residential neighbors on the east side?
So we haven't had any response from the residential neighbors on the east side. That is an apartment complex, and that is leased out. So their owners, the owner of the apartment complex is, in other words, they're not homesteaded units. They're not units that people are getting notice and those types of things, I think. So my point is that we haven't had any response at all from them. The important thing to remember is the density is allowed. The 2.5 FAR is allowed. Clearwater Mall's right across the street. Reed, how much percentage are they at of their about allowable density?
They're only about 8% of their allowable build-out, ultimately. They could build over 3 million more square feet there.
So the density is a right in the code. So the issue of, as Lawrence said, height is not an issue. The density is allowed in the regional center, and that could be a hotel, it could be an office, but the problem, again, as we've stated, is you would need to have the commensurate parking, which is why it's failed. So it's been identified by the staff and by the planners as a site for intense development, but because of the encumbrances, that intense development is not going to happen based on the parking. And this shows the distance. There would be about over 110 feet of distance between the building and the closest residential building there. And they do have a wall that is on our property that we're going to maintain. In other words, we're not taking down the pre-existing wall, even though it's on our site. All these trees will stay. These trees aren't going away. The work will be over here on this side of the property. And this property owner supports it, as we've said.
Any other questions? How tall is that apartment building that you were referencing?
I don't know.
And
How
this
many
is,
stories?
that's the 3-story building.
And your building is going to be 8 stories?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Which is still below the 100-foot.
Mr. Unks, you referenced a letter that you had from Ford Pinellas.
Yes, sir.
Did Ford Pinellas take a vote and approve this project?
No, so the Ford Pinellas process.
So they didn't take a vote, they just
No.
sent a letter saying that they were comfortable with it.
They don't need any additional involvement.
Okay.
That's all it says.
But did our community development board take a vote?
They did, yes, sir.
And it was 5-2?
It was a 5-2 recommendation of denial.
And there are attorneys on that board?
There are 2 attorneys on that board, yes, sir.
Did they vote in the majority or in the minority?
Mrs. Lau voted in the minority.
Did they vote in the majority or the minority?
I'm sorry, they voted in the majority.
So they voted against approval?
That's right. It might.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Anybody from the public to speak to this project? We ask that you have a card filled out. You need to fill out a card and give us your name. You can speak and then fill out the card.
My name is John Pelosi. I live in Seville condominiums right behind the project they're going to build. Right behind them is a 3-story building. I'm not in that building, I'm further back, so I won't be seeing that. But the people that live in that 3-story building, to see an 8-story storage, that's going to be a horror. That's going to look terrible. And the one thing that's really bad is the traffic over there. There's only one lane to get out of Seville Boulevard. And you have the mall coming out. The weekends, you can't even get out of Seville to get onto 19 to go south. So adding this is going to be a horror with traffic. And please, we don't need it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Please fill out a card, sir, so that we can have your name and address for the record. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? You're up again.
Does the staff have a rebuttal or a comment? I didn't know
You
that
have
was
it.
part of the process. Or they have a closing, or you want us just to go? I don't want to take their time if they're,
I would like to say just a couple of things. Mr. Onks did point out how self-storage is a needed use in Pinellas County. And it's not that we don't agree with that. We believe we just have other locations for it in the corridor where it's already allowed, where it was planned for. Also, just to point out, between the new Duncan self-storage on Duncan, obviously, and then the one that's going to be built on US 19 that was subject of the last text amendment, we'll have 1,500 new self-storage units added to our market. And then we have plenty of land in the corridor to accommodate this use. Also, I think there was a comment about concern about process. I think process is critical in this instance because you're affording someone rights that other property owners don't have. And the way to get that is through following the correct procedural path that one would have. And so that's why process is important to us. It's not that we're anti-self-storage. We just think that this is the wrong way to deal with it. I think that in the end, if City Council, I'm almost afraid to say this, but if you are supportive of self-storage in the regional centers, I think it would be best to look at it holistically and make an amendment to allow it so that others can avail themselves to that.
Mr. Onks?
I wanted to address that gentleman's statement about traffic. I think that's actually one of the nice things about self-storage is it really doesn't generate traffic. The reason why with this use you're actually able to build to the intensities again envisioned within the plan are because there isn't much of a parking requirement for self-storage because we don't generate a whole lot of traffic. It's a pretty quiet use actually. So, and again, it will be designed appropriately for the area. Architecturally, it's going to look like an office building. It's not going to look like a self-storage facility. So, the height of it is less than what's currently, what is actually 150 feet is currently allowable in the activity center. We're going to 86 or 96. 100 would be allowed in corridor. So, these are the heights and the mass, the scale that are already envisioned in this plan, regardless of what's put there. And then I do think process, as Gina said, it is important, but it's important to understand that we would always have to do a text amendment. And the land use amendment that she speaks of, that's a countywide plan amendment. That would be an application that actually takes place after we get the text amendment approved. So in essence, after the text amendment, the city would now be our representative to the county in a countywide plan map amendment. And I got the schedules on that. And the soonest that we could ever go before them, which again, that decision now is taken away from the city. The decision goes to the county as to whether this is allowable within our city. And that wouldn't take place till February, assuming everything went perfectly at this point. Time is a factor here as well. And we do believe that we are taking the path that is the proper path. And ultimately, if there is a redevelopment of this site, and there is an assemblage of this site, many years down the road, this will remain within the activity center. Thank you.
and with our last minute, I just wanted to also point out, and we've discussed this, but this property does have a significant history of code enforcement issues. It is not obviously a property that the residents probably want to be behind when it's got stuff being dumped on it, when it has beer cans from the 7-Eleven. And this is one of those hard properties to maintain because there's nothing they can do with it right now without this text amendment. I want to just remind you again, the density is not before you. This is a properly pursued application. This is a compelling evidence to support this legislative decision that will maintain the goals and objectives of the US 19 plan for intensities, for pedestrian-oriented development. There's no sidewalk on the parcel now. It will have full streetscaping, interconnectivity between the parcels, beautiful landscaping, cause very little traffic, activate that site with 6,000 square feet of retail office, and support the goals and objectives of the US 19 plan. Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay, council, to keep this sort of from getting too muddy, the motion will be to deny the amendments, and then we will work from that, if that's okay. So the agenda item is to deny the amendments, so the motion would be to deny the amendments. Then if you want to approve and allow the project to go forward, you would vote no. Okay? So is there a motion to approve agenda item 8.2, which would be to deny the amendments?
So moved?
Is there a second?
I will second it for discussion.
Right. Okay, motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 8.2 to deny the amendments to the Community Development Code. Comments, council?
You want me to start?
Sure.
I can do that. Yeah, at first I'd like to compliment staff. Y'all, I know how hard y'all have worked on this, and by your rules and by your direction, you've done exactly what you're supposed to do. No question. I appreciate it. I'm going to come at it, though, from a personal perspective and realistic perspective of someone who's lived here his whole life. This piece of property has been vacant through 2 complete iterations of Clearwater Mall. When Clearwater Mall, the first Clearwater Mall opened up, it was a beautiful indoor mall, lots of activity. Nobody showed interest on this one piece of property. There's nothing there. Clearwater Mall died, sat vacant, got torn down. The new Clearwater Mall has emerged, lots of activity. Nothing has still happened on this property. Y'all said, and I agree with you, consolidation takes time. But I know the Bose family, and I talked to them about this, and they've got 20 years of lease left on that 7-Eleven, and that's the only property that could conceivably consolidate with this property. And they have no desire whatsoever to have this property. There's no use, they have no use for it. So is it perfect? Absolutely not. But also, as was presented, you've got 1,800 new housing units going up within half a mile of this site. You've got new apartments on the east side of Clearwater Mall. You've got new ones being built at Bel Air Road and US 19. Seville itself, and most people that live in apartments have more stuff than they can store in their unit. This is something people can use, and this location, if this location was a perfect location for anything else, it would already be there. Given the history of the lot and the location, if a restaurant could be there or something else, it would be there. And the fact that all it is right now is a code enforcement headache for the city of Clearwater because of trash and homeless and everything else. I'm not saying anything's better than nothing, but this is the only thing that has even remotely come forward on this property in 60 years that I'm aware of. So I will be voting no on the motion because, again, while I know it's not exactly what staff and what the US 19 plan desires, given the complexities and unique properties of this property, I'm good with it. So I will be voting no.
Any other comments, council?
Yep.
Mr. Albritton?
I'm kind of sitting in the same position on this because this is another difficult site. And Mr. Hamilton's right. Nothing has been there. And nothing's going to go there for another 20 years, it seems like, from what the adjacent property owner is saying. And so I'd rather see something go there than have it be a problem. Now, I don't know if this is something, I really don't like the part about that we have always making text amendments to storage facilities, but the last two that we've done are very, I think, odd sites in this whole corridor. If I knew something else was going to go here, I probably would support, that. But I think that, at least what was presented to me tonight, it seems like the county's on board with it, and I think it'll be a good thing for the neighborhood. So I'm going to be voting to deny it. Or voting no on the denial.
Mr.
Thank you, Mayor.
Lovelace.
I think the plan, it's great to have a plan, especially for the US 19 and as relevant as it is to our city for economic growth of that corridor. But to have a plan that's so rigid that doesn't allow for flexibility, and staff has said there is a path forward. It's not necessarily a text amendment, but correct me if I'm wrong, that is something that anyone can avail themselves to, correct? They don't have to necessarily do a map amendment. Anybody that wanted to do a change, such as these folks, could come forward with a text amendment, because you said you didn't want to set a precedent. There is a process forward, and I'm not sure that the strategy of having them go through a different process to get lesser intensity, which doesn't meet, I think, the needs of that community, or doesn't meet the intensity and density, and it meets all other aspects of the plan. So I think a plan is good, but I think flexibility, a great plan with flexibility is even better to be able to address a situation such as we have here. I'm going to tell you why. I have a brother-in-law who 7-Eleven is the #1 retailer fuel developer in the country. They're expanding leaps and bounds beyond Racetrack, Speedway, or any other national franchises. This guy's not going to close. The only other best hope would be 7-Eleven expand on that property, and then it doesn't meet community needs. So, and I would hope, and I didn't see a rendering of this from the applicant, but that architecturally it's going to be aesthetically pleasing, noise has been addressed, you've addressed traffic. I'll tell you that if I was on council, when the Denny's application came forward, I would be 100% behind staff, because that's US 19 frontage, absolutely. Consolidation, I think, would be encouraged, and we would wait it out, but 60 years is long enough to wait. I would have denied the application for the Denny's. I would not have supported it, because I believe in the plan. This is a really, really unique instance, and so I'm going to be supporting the applicant and voting to deny the text amendment as well.
Mr. Cundiff.
You know I'm not a great supporter of storage facilities. I happen to use storage facilities, and so I understand them. I like them when they're needed. And I know people do need storage facilities, and it looks like south of Gulf to Bay is just booming with new places, and I think there will be a need closer than Duncan and up by Denny's for storage. I like the fact that it is a mixed use with office and retail in it. I like that it's not demanding a lot of additional parking, which would be traffic. I don't like that we have to go around planning and development on this. And I'm in favor of you maybe revisiting the corridor and making it so that we don't have to go around these corners on these odd pieces of property. And everybody agrees that it is a weird piece of property, and nobody knows what to do with it. Whether it's going to be 4 or 5 stories or 7 stories, really it's not going to look much different, because it's landlocked. It's limited by the property. And I say let's make good use of the height that's allowable. You get some office space up on the top and retail on the side. And although I almost never vote against you guys, I'm going to this time. Sorry.
Well, I can count too. But I'm not going to give in, because I haven't given in on the 3 other times that this has come forward to us. Council, we gave staff a charge, and they spent an awful lot of time working on a US 19 corridor plan. We gave a charge to our Community Development Board to review this, and they came back with a recommendation. I'm not denying that there isn't a need. I'm not denying that this may be the best use, but we have a process. You don't like it, so you count it differently, and that's not right. We have done this now 3 times. How many other unique parcels are we going to find that are going to come to us? And because it's not convenient to follow the process, they're going to come directly to council. So I'm troubled by this trend that we're seeing in 1 year's time. And I'm just disappointed that once again, we're having to abandon our process, our Community Development Board, and our staff to do something that we're all going to agree that it's needed. But we're saying, you know, guys, you're entitled to something extra. Motion has been made and seconded to deny the amendments to the Clearwater Community Development Code to expand the area. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
No.
Motion is denied, is rejected 4-1. So we need to read the resolution and deny the resolution?
No, there is an ordinance, and so.
The ordinance.
You are presumably approving this ordinance.
We will pass the ordinance.
So we're going to pass, if you want the storage unit facility to go forward, you will pass the ordinance.
This is the ordinance amends the,
Okay. Okay, so a motion to, I need a motion to
I
approve.
move to pass ordinance. Hold on.
well,
Right.
Don't you gotta read it first?
no, actually,
Do not pass, no. It's
so
for
you've
them to
denied
pass.
the amendments. Well,
We
you
denied the
approved,
request.
you denied the staff request to deny.
Right.
So
Needs to be clear.
I'll just read you the ordinance. Ordinance number 9308-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, making an amendment to the Community Development Code Appendix B, US 19 Zoning District and Development Standards, Section B-303, Table 2, to expand the geographic area where self-storage warehouse use with required retail, restaurant, and/or office uses is permitted in the Regional Center Subdistrict of the US 19 Zoning District to include a certain parcel with frontage of Seville Boulevard, subject to FLS approval, certifying consistency with the city's comprehensive plan and proper advertisement, providing for severability, and providing an effective date.
I move to pass ordinance number 9308-19 on first reading.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9308-19 on first reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? Mr. Hamilton?
The only thing I'd like to say, the comments you made, I agree, but we also, we have a community development board. Their decisions come to us as a recommendation. Going against what they voted is why we're here. If we feel that's what we want, if that's how we feel it should be, if we're not allowed or not supposed to go against the Community Development Code, should we not just give them the power to approve this and never come to us? that the process comes to us. But it doesn't say because they make a decision one way that we are required to follow that recommendation if we feel differently. And very rarely do we feel differently, but this is one of those cases.
I understand, and I appreciate that, Mr. Hamilton. They heard all of this debate, okay? They listened to the staff recommendations. And all I'm saying is that it troubles me that this process that we've set up, the whole process, once again, we're making an exception for, and that was really what I was referencing, that we're making an exception once again.
I appreciate that. But I also would be willing to bet a sizable amount of money that on the US 19 plan, that as some things move forward and then get implemented, it's going to present either opportunity or an opportunity in somebody's mind for something that might be very good, that might not be exactly what the plan calls for, and we're going to have to address that again. The plan is a great plan, but it's not written so rigidly that we can't have interpretation of it at certain points.
But the applicant did not want to follow the other process that was open to him. And that is what's most troubling in my opinion.
I appreciate that.
Are we still on comment?
Yeah.
Being rigid and not flexible, I would suggest, might be why there's no cranes in downtown Clearwater. I came back from Fort Myers today. If anybody wants to open up a crane business and go to St. Pete, maybe even Dunedin, okay, we need flexibility, we need exceptions. So without those exceptions, I would also suggest, how successful is that US 19 corridor plan going to be? How long are we going to wait? Maybe this is the development that will inspire the development of the rest of that piece of Seville going in. So I agree, it's great to have plans, but I think in this situation in the city of Clearwater, having plans with exceptions and flexibility to overcome situations, 60 years is ridiculous. But I would suggest that's probably how far we are behind some areas. Granted, with all the assets we have, Clearwater Beach, everything we've got going on, the Bluff, from Fort Myers, I saw a lot of communities built out of a scratch of Orange Grove. They don't have the assets and amenities we have, and we haven't figured out how to capitalize on them. And you can't blame 2 or 3 partners for our problems. So we better be flexible, we better make exceptions, or we're going to continue to be left out in the side of the cold. Thank you.
Any other comments, council? Well, I'm going to close this because we're not being fair when we're saying that we're being rigid and not flexible. Staff told us that there was a process to be followed that gave flexibility. The applicant chose not to follow that process.
A lesser product does not benefit the economy.
It still was a flexible, so you can't say that Cranes and Fort Myers would be in St. Petersburg would be on US 19 if we approve a self-storage unit again. And that's what we've done twice now. We've allowed storage units. They don't create jobs.
You don't think it's an amenity to residential? I mean, it's a necessary amenity.
It doesn't create jobs like the plan was intended to create.
But it's an amenity.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve ordinance 9308-19 on first reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. No. Motion carries 4-1 with criticus in opposition. Agenda item 8.3. There's no point in continuing.
Approve the annexation initial future land use map designation of Industrial Limited and initial zoning atlas designation of Industrial Research and Technology IRT District for 2108 Palmetto Street and pass ordinances 9309-19, 9310-19, 9311-19 on first reading. Ms. Clayton.
Good evening, Gina Clayton, Planning and Development Department. The applicant is requesting to annex this property, which is, has a single-family home on it, but has historically been used for auto repair. The applicant is requesting annexation in order to receive solid waste service and would like to use this property in conjunction with the parcel to the east that they own. The property currently receives water service from the city. The property is contiguous to city boundaries on all four sides, and annexation will actually eliminate an enclave. The property will be designated Industrial Limited on the future land use map and zoned Industrial Research and Technology. Staff is recommending approval as the annexation will not result in any adverse impacts on city services and is consistent with the Comprehensive Plan and Community Development Code.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 8.3? Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 8.3?
Move approval of agenda item 8.
I'm sorry?
Only if we have questions.
Move approval of agenda item 8.3.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 8.3. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9309-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real property located on the north side of Palmetto Street, approximately 1,080 feet west of North Belcher Road, whose post office address is 2108 Palmetto Street, Clearwater, Florida, 33765, into the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date.
I move that we pass ordinance 9309-19 on first reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9309-19 on first reading. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9310-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real property located on the north side of Palmetto Street, approximately 1,080 feet west of North Belcher Road, whose post office address is 2108 Palmetto Street, Clearwater, Florida, 33765, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as Industrial Limited, IL, providing an effective date.
I move to pass ordinance 9310-19 on first reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9310-19 on first reading. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9311-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real property located on the north side of Palmetto Street, approximately 1,080 feet west of North Belcher Road, whose post office address is 2108 Palmetto Street, Clearwater, Florida, 33765, upon annexation to the City of Clearwater's Industrial Research and Technology, IRT, providing an effective date.
I would move to pass ordinance 9311-19 on first reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9311-19 on first reading. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.4, Mr. Horn.
Approve the annexation, initial future land use map designation of residential low, RL, and initial zoning atlas designation of low medium density residential, LMDR district for 1421 West Virginia Lane, and pass ordinances 9312-19, 9313-19, and 9314-19 on first reading. Ms. Clayton.
This is another application for annexation for a single-family home in order to receive solid waste service. This property actually already receives water and sewer service from the city. It's located in an enclave and it's contiguous to city boundaries on the west side and will be designated residential low on the future land use map and zone low medium density residential. We're recommending approval as there will be no adverse impacts on city services and it's consistent with the plan and the code.
Any questions of staff on 8.4? Anybody from the public speak to agenda item 8.4?
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of agenda item 8.4.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 8.4. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9312-19, An ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real property located generally on the east side of West Virginia Lane, approximately 865 feet south of State Road 590, whose post office address is 1421 West Virginia Lane, Clearwater, Florida 33759, into the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date.
I move that we pass ordinance 9312-19 on first reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9312-19 on first reading. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9313-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real property located generally on the east side of West Virginia Lane, approximately 865 feet south of State Road 590, whose post office address is 1421 West Virginia Lane, Clearwater, Florida 33759, upon annexation to the City of Clearwater's residential low RL, providing an effective date.
I move to pass ordinance 9313-19 on first reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9313-19 on first reading. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9314-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real property located generally on the east side of West Virginia Lane, approximately 865 feet south of State Road 590. This post office address is 1421 West Virginia Lane, Clearwater, Florida 33759. Upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as low-medium density residential, LMDR, providing an effective date.
I would move to pass ordinance 9314-19 on first reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9314-19 on first reading. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 8.5, Mr. Horn.
Approve the annexation, initial future land use map designation of residential low RL, and initial zoning atlas designation of low-medium density residential LMDR district for 1861 East Drive, and pass ordinances 9318-19, 9319-19, and 9320-19 on first reading. Ms. Clayton again.
This is a voluntary annexation request in order to receive sanitary sewer service as well as solid waste. The property currently has water service from the city and has already paid their assessment and impact fees for sewer service. This is another property located in an enclave. It's contiguous to city boundaries on 3 sides and will be designated residential low and then zone low medium density residential. Again, no adverse impacts on city services, and we're recommending approval.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 8.5? Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 8.5?
Move approval of agenda item 8.5.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 8.5. Any comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken. Oh, it's Ms. Call, I'm sorry.
Ordinance number 9318-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real property located on the east side of East Drive, approximately 223 feet south of Sunset Point Road, whose post office address is 1861 East Drive, Clearwater, Florida 33755, into the corporate limits of the city and redefining the boundary lines of the city to include said addition, providing an effective date.
I move that we pass ordinance 9318-19 on first reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9318-19 on first reading. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9319-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the future land use element of the comprehensive plan of the city to designate the land use for certain real property located on the east side of East Drive, approximately 223 feet south of Sunset Point Road, whose post office address is 1861 East Drive, Clearwater, Florida 33755, upon annexation to the City of Clearwater's residential low RL, providing an effective date.
I move to pass ordinance 9319-19 on first reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9319-19 on first reading. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken.
Ordinance number 9320-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, amending the zoning atlas of the city by zoning certain real property located on the east side of East Drive, approximately 223 feet south of Sunset Point Road, whose post office address is 1861 East Drive, Clearwater, Florida 33755, upon annexation into the City of Clearwater as low-medium density residential, LMDR, providing an effective date.
I would move to pass ordinance 9320-19 on first reading.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9320-19 on first reading. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 9.1 is a second reading. Ms. Call.
Ordinance number 9298-19, an ordinance of the City of Clearwater, Florida, annexing certain real property located generally north of Lakeview Road, south of Druid Road, east of South Duncan Avenue, and west of South Hercules Avenue, whose post office address is 1819 Audubon Street, Clearwater, Florida 33764, together with a certain portion of Audubon Street right-of-way into the corporate limits of the city and redefining boundary lines of the city to include said additions, providing an effective date.
Mr. Chairman, I move to pass ordinance 9298-19 on second reading.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to pass ordinance 9298-19 on second reading. Anybody from the public to speak to this motion? Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item, there's not a 10? What happened to 10? 11.1.
Support the Florida Gulf Coast Hope Spot and adopt Resolution 19-28. Ms. Moore.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Sheridan Boyle, Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Clearwater. So the resolution before you today acknowledges the importance of the newly created Florida Gulf Coast Hope Spot and its alignment with the City of Clearwater's goals. The Florida Gulf Coast Hope Spot, nominated by the local nonprofit Blue Green Connections, is part of a global mission to draw attention to the precious and unique marine ecosystems around the world. World-renowned marine biologist Dr. Sylvia Earle first introduced the concept of a hope spot in 2009 to bring awareness and preservation to the world's marine ecosystems. Many people don't know that Dr. Earle is actually born and raised from Dunedin, so very close to home for us. Hope spots are recognized areas critical to ocean health and human communities. These areas provide at least one of the following functions: a special abundance or diversity of species, habitats, or ecosystems, particular populations of rare, threatened, or endemic species, a site with potential to reverse damage from negative human impacts, the presence of natural processes such as major migration corridors or spawning grounds, significant historical, cultural, or spiritual values, or a particular economic importance to the community. Hope spots are not a legal designation or a regulatory entity, and they do not bring about any rules or restrictions to their locations. There is no cost associated with an area hosting a hope spot. Instead, they are recognized as special locations by Dr. Earle's organization, Mission Blue, and advocated as sites worthy of scientific research and preservation. Mission Blue announces and promotes its hope spots to an extensive network of marine scientists who may conduct studies or hold conferences in the surrounding areas. To its hope spots, Mission Blue facilitates funding support, collaboration between potential partners, and assists in increasing local, international, and governmental recognition of the area. Furthermore, a hope spot designation promotes an area as an ecotourist destination. The hope spot along Florida's Gulf Coast could encourage a greater influx of visitors, be they scientists or tourists, to visit the city. The Hope Spot would assist the City of Clearwater's strategic direction by increasing the economic opportunity of our area. A Hope Spot would also support the values laid out by the city's comprehensive plan, which prescribes for the preservation of all living and non-living coastal resources. The Florida Gulf Coast Hope Spot has found support from the City of Dunedin, the Pinellas County Board of Commissioners, the Tampa Bay Estuary Program, Ocean Allies, and more. So with that, I would like to thank you, and I, as well as Ray Bouchard from Blue Green Connections, would be happy to answer any questions regarding the Florida Gulf Coast Hope Spot or the resolution before you.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 11.1? Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 11.1?
Move approval of agenda item 11.1.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 11.1. Comments, council? Mr. Polglaze.
Thank you, Mayor. From my time spent in the Tampa Bay estuary, first of all, I would like to contradict one thing you said, that this designation comes without a cost. There has been a cost to the citizens of the city of Clearwater, not directly with this particular initiative, but with our involvement in the Tampa Bay estuaries. But I would like to also add that has been one, and to comment and quote some of the things, more seagrasses in the last 50 years. Yes, scallops are some of the hardest. They still haven't figured out why they haven't reintroduced themselves. I know it's very slow. But all the success that's happened in the Tampa Bay estuary, we have supported, so that to me, it's kind of like full circle. This has come to where it is now going to be nationally recognized, so that we get twice maybe the bang for our buck and twice the effort with internationally renowned scientists to come in.
May I add, it's also internationally recognized.
To continue and help the effort of what we've already been doing for quite some time, and to sort of work on the success that we've been doing. So thank you. I think this is an absolutely great thing.
Mr. Kondo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to piggyback on what my colleague said, because I'm also now on the last 3 years on the Tampa Bay Estuary Board, and have been amazed at the science that I see there and learn there, and I can only see in the Gulf Coast Hope Spot an increased influx of scientists and studies in our area, and I think it'll be a tremendous opportunity that we have that we don't want to miss.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 11.1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken.
Resolution 19-28, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Clearwater supporting the Hope Spot, which is comprised of coastal waters from Apalachicola to 10,000 Islands Wildlife Refuge, and providing an effective date.
I move to adopt Resolution 19-28.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt Resolution 19-28. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 11.2, Mr. Horn.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members.
Approve an agreement between the City of Clearwater City and Redflex Traffic Systems, Inc. for a traffic camera safety improvement program through October 30th, 2024, in accordance with Clearwater Code of Ordinance, Section 2.5641D, other government entities bids, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Chief Slaughter.
Dan Slaughter, your Police Chief. In April 2011, the council directed us to implement a red light camera safety program. It went live in summer of 2012, and through an RFP process, we had selected Redflex as the vendor to support the program. We have red light camera enforcement technology deployed at 3 approaches at 2 different intersections, one at Chestnut and Fort Harrison heading eastbound, and then at Belcher and Gulf to Bay at both eastbound approach and westbound approach. The contract with Redflex is set to expire at the end of this month on October 31st. We're recommending continuing with the contract with Redflex due to our positive experience with them during our last 5 years. The financials associated with this contract are essentially the same. There are no changes in the flat rate of $4,270 per approach per month. The language includes the contract includes some language on cost neutrality, so that if the fines associated with the program do not cover the cost of life of the contract, the city would not be responsible for payments to Redflex. In 2018, the program generated 17,694 notice of violations. This is a violation rate of approximately 0.09%, okay, so 0.09%, and that's of the 19.4 million vehicles that went through these approaches. A cursory review of the traffic crash data indicates that they are kind of trending downward, but I've always recommended the council be cautious between making a correlation, just because of the numerous variables that can be accounted for in crash data. Belcher and 60 and Chestnut and Fort Harrison were selected by our traffic engineering department based on serious injury crash data. I did follow up based on Councilmember Albritton's question today, and the traffic engineering department is not recommending any changes in the approaches at this time. And we believe that since Belcher and Gulf to Bay, it's definitely been an intersection that has been in the top 5 as far as the number of crashes in the city of Clearwater, that we continue to have a program that promotes safety We utilize the red light cameras not only for the safety, but we also use it for education. The videos that we see and the violations are concerning when you see them, and there's really no doubt when you see those videos that people actually deserve a citation. I'd be more than happy to try to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 11.2? Mr. Poglaze.
Thank you, Mayor. To replicate that enforcement tool that those cameras accomplish at the most critical areas that we have in the city, what the analysis in manpower hours, it just could not be done.
If I understand your question, if we were to expand and have
If
additional
you were to
cameras-
use manpower and get rid of the cameras.
Oh, if we were to have manpower do it, we wouldn't be able to.
You couldn't do what the cameras do.
We couldn't do it. You wouldn't have the, you want an effective deterrent in this world. And an effective deterrent is, one of the major components of an effective deterrent is certainty. Red light cameras give you certainty. If you run the red light, you're gonna get a citation. And there's even a danger component to what you're talking about. To have a red light camera that sends this through the mail is much safer than an officer having to turn on his lights and sirens to go through an intersection that's already dangerous to go capture a violator. So there's a lot of positives to the camera.
Mr. Cundiff.
In reading some of the data on this, I know this is, those who get caught going through the red light cameras is only a minute percentage of those who go through the intersections. But it does catch those people who are going through a red light, and I speak from experience on that too. Can you say that red light cameras save lives?
I can say I don't believe they make any more danger. I can't say that a red light camera citation is going to change the world anything more than doing a speeding citation, and I still have fatalities. So enforcement's important. If it's the one person that learns his lesson with the running the red light and he gets his ticket and he doesn't run another red light and cause a crash, then the answer to that's yes. But having that correlation of what could have happened in crime, it's always difficult to articulate prevention may it accomplish anything because it didn't happen. So how do you articulate that? But I would say that holding people accountable for violating the law is a step in the right direction.
And I know there are other steps, and it's for another discussion, but there are additional things perhaps the city could do to help slow down the drivers, to help make the drivers more alert, paying attention. And the red light cameras really don't do this, except, if they understand that there's somebody going through this. So my question is, would you be open to us exploring, or you exploring with us at another time, additional things that could help to make our streets more safe?
I would be certainly open to exploring anything that would make our streets more safe and probably look at it more in the aggregate. We would want to add more tools as opposed to take one away and replace it. But, I think the discussion is always valuable.
Thank you.
Mr. Albritton.
Do you have any figures on, let's say somebody goes through the intersection but gets through there before the light turns red, but they do get a picture and they get a notice? Are there are there any percentage of notices that get sent out that people fight and say, hey, I made it before the...
I don't have necessarily any data on how many are contested that are successfully contested. I would say that percentage that are successfully contested is going to be extremely small.
Yeah.
But the mechanisms for how the process works is so it's really difficult for you to get a citation and not a committed, because not only do you get the video and the pictures, then it's reviewed by a person to make sure that all the factors are there.
Right.
So there really isn't a scenario that they weed out any ones that would be inaccurate, or that say the system got duped or something.
That was kind of my question.
Yeah.
And I do know that DOT is looking at that intersection to do something with it. Now, this is through 2024. I don't think anything's going to happen before then, but I think we'll have plans, because I've heard of some plans for doing a different layout for that intersection to really help, because that is one of our problematic intersections. I wish it was more like Keene. It's just a very dangerous intersection. So if we did find something that was going to happen before 2024, is there any kind of penalty on if we don't use this?
There's a 90-day cancellation clause in the contract that you could
invoke.
I mean, you could let it run through the remainder of the contract, and if that intersection makes it safer and red lights are less, then
Okay,
less.
all right.
Anybody from the public to speak to agenda item 11.2? Again, we ask that you have a card filled out and you give us your name.
Mark Bunker, and I think red light cameras are evil and should be taken down, dismantled and smelted. I don't know that they really cause people to drive any more safely. I see people in Florida drive crazier than anywhere I've been in the country, and that includes LA. Even at Gulf to Bay and Belcher, people are flying through that intersection. I see the cameras flashing constantly. It just seems to me more of a cash cow for the city, and can cause more accidents than prevent. I urge citizens to please drive more carefully. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Axel David. I'm here in my personal capacity as a Clearwater resident to talk to you about this red light camera program, something I've been looking into quite a bit for a number of years. A lot of arguments which you hear, you get the emails, you get the phone calls, you hear people speak, the arguments against it, constitutional due process, you can't face an accuser, it's a machine on the side of the road. There's a lot of privacy issues. These license plate data is being stored on private servers somewhere in Arizona or Australia, wherever it's located. And of course, the overall negative. People hate these things. And I think anyone in this room would agree that it's overwhelmingly despised. Maybe not everyone in this room agrees with that, but it's pretty well understood that people do not like these things. To address the effectiveness of this program, you have to address two questions. One, is red light running being reduced? And two, are the intersections safer? To look at the crash rates, I'll put it on this screen over here. This is from Pinellas County. Okay. That's from Pinellas County. This red arrow where you see, that's when the city started the photo enforcement program. That's in 2012. In 2013 was the first full year the cameras were in operation. You see the spike in accidents there. Chief Slaughter, an email that was sent to you on October 10th, started the data conveniently at 2015. He didn't go all the way back to the beginning of the program, or even before that, which if you want to look at the effectiveness of the program, you had to go before, not just an arbitrary number at the middle of 2015. You see at 2015 and 2017, the accidents peaked. At the other page, I don't have, not there, similar results at the Chestnut and Fort Harrison. At the work session on March 5th, 2013, then Major Slaughter said, quote, "It's difficult to correlate red light camera enforcement based on an increase or reduction in crash activity." That was March of 2013. Yesterday, on Monday's work session in this chambers here, he had functionally the same argument. Today, before he spoke, again, functionally the same argument. Well, you can't really, there's some correlations, some variables here you just don't understand. I don't buy that. I look at the crash data, this is right here, but I don't want to split hairs here, okay? Let's not look at the crash data, let's not look at any of this stuff here. Let's look at how many violations are there. What you got in the same email sent by Chief Slaughter on October 10th. This is directly from Red Flags. This isn't a document I created, this is from Red Flags. That tells you year by year how many violations were issued. I will caution this, 2017, I believe it was Gulf to Bay and Belcher had the cameras were offline there for construction. You see in the first full year of operation in 2013, there were 8,275 violations printed. That number rose dramatically to 17,691 violations, which he alluded to earlier. That is more than double. How could you tell me that a program started in 2013 that cause red light running to double and crashes to go up is in any way an effective deterrent or successful. I would challenge that very vociferously, I should say. I would recommend, time's up, but I hope you don't extend this. Thank you.
Make sure you fill out a card, sir, if you haven't already. Anybody else from the public to speak to agenda item 11.2?
Good evening, Gary Lee, Clearwater. I would say, if you don't do anything wrong, if you don't do anything wrong, you don't have anything to fear. I am in favor of the red lights. Reminds you of the old joke where the guy went through the light, the camera snapped, and he said, "I was not speeding." Goes through the light again, third time. He said, "I can hardly wait till I get my ticket because I'm going to contest this." He got his citation. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt. So I think those are a good idea. And you'll ask for other ideas that might help people drive more safely. Now, I noticed that when we have stop signs, people roll through them so many different times. And so my suggestion would be, if you're going to try to curb that, why not put a traffic bump by the stop sign? People will be annoyed, but chances are they would stop. And if we want a safer environment, then they're going to put 3 traffic or speed bumps on our street. They said before the end of October. They said, I will probably be very upset when it's done, but I probably won't speed. So I think these measures are good. Yeah, there might be an intrusion of a little bit of privacy, but if you haven't done anything wrong, then you don't have to worry about it. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wishing to speak on 11.2? No, you have to come forward, fill out a card so that we'll have your name, and we'll let you speak for 3 minutes.
Okay, my name's Evan. I've never really done this before. I really just wanted to ask a question, what kind of revenue we were seeing come in for these lights. So, bottom line, if you're making money off it, then go ahead and continue to do it. But the red lights, what they do is it stifles the flow of traffic. And when you cause breaks in a system, what happens is it creates more danger. So red lights in general, yeah, you might make more money, but you're creating, you're making it hazardous, is the bottom line, because, I don't know, man, I just wanted to ask the damn question.
Please fill out a card, thank you. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak to 11.2? If not, I will close public comment. Motion has been made and seconded. No motion yet.
I will make a motion to approve agenda item 11.2.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 11.2. Comments, council? Mr. Albrecht.
I don't like red light, or these cameras either, because I think they're distracting. I mentioned on Monday that I come over Chestnut and I make a right turn on Fort Harrison early in the morning. It's dark. And I see a lot of times, even when I come to a stop, that light goes off. And I'm like, I see it, but it takes me a minute to figure what it is. It's not that I'm doing anything, I'm not going through the intersection, but that's why I was asking you how many times that you have people that fight it, that come back. But here's the thing. I think it really does deter. When I see the numbers, and I know they're right, 19.4 million cars that go that go through those intersections, and only 0.09% of the people that run the red lights You know what? If I was running them and I had to pay a fine, next time I come to that intersection, I would think twice. So I know I would be deterred about it. So even though I don't like them, I think I'm going to vote that, to put them in, keep them in.
Mr. Pugles.
Sorry, Hoyt, I keep pointing to you, but the mayor caught my fingers. No, it's okay. I'm going to go. So I personally like them. I don't think they're going to, we are a tourist-based economy here. Those two are most, so happens to be critical intersections, are the two that engage the most tourists coming in and leaving. Is it going to educate them? Well, maybe on their 7-day stay, they might remember that they either got a ticket or they didn't. But to me, I think it is a education enforcement tool for our residents, because many of our residents, if they don't know the shortcuts or by virtue of that's the road they have to take. My daughter ran the red light at Gulf to Bay in Belcher, and she complained and whined it was too much. She doesn't make that much money. I said, well, sweetie, you're not going to do that again, are you? Or you're going to avoid that. So as an educational tool for our residents, if we can make it safer, the chief said we cannot enforce to the degree that these cameras do. And we're only doing it at 2 intersections. There are communities that have rejected it all out, but then there are communities that use it even more than we do. So I like the program in our city for those 2, and that's why I'm going to be supporting it.
Mr. Hamilton.
Well, I think it's been in use since 2012, so 7 years now. Is it a total deterrent? Absolutely not. That's why people still get tickets for running it. I don't buy into in any way, shape, or form that it's a cash cow revenue generator, although it does generate revenues. But guess what? So as the chief has said to me before, every traffic ticket his police force writes is revenue, but they're written because someone violated a law of driving. So it's about catching the violators. It's not about revenue generation. If this was strictly revenue generation, we'd be saying, why are we just putting it at 2 intersections? Why don't we have it at 20 intersections? If we wanted this is a cash cow revenue generator. I think it's reasonable to keep with the contract we have on the 2 intersections that we're doing. I drive through the Belcher Gulf to Bay intersection daily, multiple times, and I know the cameras are there. And I'm much more cautious going through that intersection than I am some others in this city. The chief gives me a hard time about some of my driving habits sometimes, but it's been in place. It's in place. I see no reason not to continue it for this. Now, if a government body higher than us at the state level or whatever says that they're not allowed in the state, we'll take it out. But I'm willing to vote, and I will vote to extend this contract.
Mr. Kondo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This comes as a recommendation from the police, and I'm inclined to agree with it and keep it in. I'm also looking for many other ways to help slow us down. We are a society that just likes to speed and rolling what we used to call California stops. And it is so dangerous, and I've seen some of the videos of people getting killed at Gulf to Bay and Belcher. And this is one small tool, and I think we ought to find other tools in order to save lives and use them, so I'm going to vote in favor of it.
Council, the last couple of times this came before us, I voted against it. I'm still not a fan of red light cameras. But I saw an article in Governing Magazine of September 2019, last month. And it said that cities that took out red light cameras had higher fatality rates at those intersections once the cameras were taken out. And so, Chief, you have a unanimous vote if I'm counting correctly. Motion has been made and seconded to approve agenda item 11.2. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken?
There is no ordinance or resolution.
No, there's a resolution.
Yes.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I'm looking at 11.3. I apologize. 11.3.
Accept an underground communication easement containing two easement areas, a 34-foot easement and a 50-foot easement from Duke Energy Florida LLC for the construction, installation, and maintenance of an underground communication facilities on real property located in Duke Energy right-of-way west of Spectrum Field, and adopt resolution 19-31. Mr. Burzak.
Good evening, Robert Burzak, Real Estate Coordinator. The proposed easement will provide the city with property rights necessary for this construction, installation, and maintenance of city fiber lines within the easement that will support the new transfer station and Phillies Carpenter complex at Spectrum Field. Questions?
Any questions of staff on 11.3? Anybody from the public to speak to 11.3?
Motion to adopt or approve 11.3.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 11.3. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken.
Resolution number 19-31, a resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, accepting an underground communications easement from Duke Energy Florida LLC for the construction, installation, and maintenance of city communications facilities, providing an effective date.
I would move to adopt resolution 19-31.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt resolution 19-31. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 11.4.
Approve the First Amendment to that certain contract for sale of real property by the City of Clearwater, Florida, between the City of Clearwater and Equity Lifestyle Properties, Inc., and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same. Mr. Burzak again.
The city and Lifestyle Properties entered in a contract for sale of the city's Hillsborough County Keystone property on November 20th, 2018. For the purposes of clarification, the parties wish to amend Section 20 of the agreement to reflect that the inspection period as defined in the contract has passed with no such pre-existing conditions being identified. The remainder of the provisions as written shall remain intact.
Any questions on 11.4? Anybody from the public speak to 11.4?
Move approval of agenda item 11.4.
I'll second it if it'll get this thing done.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 11.4. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 11.5.
Authorize the recording of a lien for a total cost of $27,444.24 on the property located at 401 North Garden Avenue, Clearwater, Florida, which has a legal description of the west one-half of Lot 11, Block 2, Bart's addition to Clearwater, according to the map or plat thereof as recorded in Plat Book 194, page 94 of the Public Records of Hillsborough County, Florida, of which Pinellas County was formerly a part, and whose owner is JPAC LLC, and adopt resolution 19-07. Ms. Clayton.
Gina Clayton, Planning and Development. This agenda item is requesting your authorization to place a lien on the property at 401 North Garden Avenue in an amount equal to the cost that our department has spent on the demolition of an unsafe structure that used to occupy this site. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 11.5? Anybody from the public speak to agenda item 11.5?
Move to approve agenda item 11.5.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 11.5. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken.
Resolution number 19-07, a resolution of the City of Clearwater, Florida, assessing certain real property having a post office address of 401 North Garden Avenue, Clearwater, Florida, as described more particularly herein, in the amount of $27,444.24 for the cost of demolition and other expenses incurred in removing a dangerous structure without consent of owner, providing an effective date.
I move to adopt Resolution 19-07.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adopt Resolution 19-07. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Agenda item 11.6.
Ratify and confirm submerged land lease between the state of Florida and the city of Clearwater for the shared docking facility adjacent to the Beach Recreation Center, and authorize the appropriate officials to execute same.
Ed Chesney, Marine and Aviation. This is the lease for the docks behind the Beach Rec Center. The first 15 of those docks are day slips available to the public free of charge. The remainder of the slips are will be controlled by the Sand Pearl Resort, and they're responsible for all maintenance and upkeep on them.
Any questions of staff on agenda item 11.6? Mr. Pogler.
One, since they're relatively just recently have been renovated and rebuilt in a very good shape, does that maintenance include if there's a need to rebuild or repair due to storm or otherwise? Are they partners within that process as well?
Yes. Anything, we had a piling, somebody ran into a piling on the free day docks and broke that, and we reported it and they repaired it and fixed it.
Right, good, thanks.
Any other questions, council? Anybody from the public to speak to 11.6? Motion?
Motion to approve 11.6.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve agenda item 11.6. Comments, council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries unanimously. Ms. Aiken, do you have any, or Mr. Horn, do you have anything further for us?
Mayor, I have just, if you will indulge me just to make a couple of comments. It's related to your conversation about the storage units. The use of the term flexibility, I was concerned about how the public might have perceived some of those comments related to the use of that term. And I just wanted to point out that our staff knows what flexibility is, and we use it within the code as written, within the plans that are written. What we don't do professionally is make exceptions. The exceptions that are made is in your purview. You're the ones, through your legislative action, decide how much you want to deviate from what's in the code. But you will never have our staff professional, at least our staff who really sees themselves as professional. They're not going to make exceptions. I don't make exceptions if I don't have the authority to do so. So I just wanted to kind of make it clear for those who are listening to understand where that flexibility is being applied. It's being applied by the council through your legislative action because you have the authority to determine if the rules are going to be followed or not. But we don't. Professionally, you expect us to follow the rules. That's all I wanted to share.
Ms. Aiken, do you have anything further for us?
No, sir.
Closing comments, Mr. Kundo.
City manager, I would then suggest I probably used the wrong word with exceptions. Flexibility is a process to get where certain applicants need to be, and they followed the process and was sort of given a lot of pushback, and they followed the process to do that. So that process with text amendment is the path to flexibility. Or you might say an exception, but they followed the process to get that way. The other final comments I would like to make are, I'd like to piggyback on what Mr. Shada had said about private sector involvement. And I can remember back before I was on council and then while I was on council, yes, they've not been successful in bringing multi-million-dollar developers downtown, recruiting them, nor have we. But I will suggest that they were part of the process and they partnered with the city to a large degree. And the first example I'll give you is the Nolan. I was on the partnership when the Nolan was being considered, ultimately ended up on the council. It is a great project for downtown, and that that project had a lot of private conversation with individual partners in downtown. The second project was the Apex 1100. And yes, the city initiated it by fines with the then owner to really generate some interest, and finally we got to where we needed to be. But I will tell you, the private sector, while these negotiations were going on with Mr. Deb, the private sector met with him multiple times and gave him a really good overview of all of the initiatives and everything we were trying to do in Clearwater to, I think, give him a higher level of comfort for the amount of investment that he did. And then finally, the ring. That is private citizen investment money. Yes, the taxpayers, the citizens participated in that endeavor, but they have stepped forward. So there is private sector involvement, ambition, and they'll always be there to help. And I think we need to continually be good partners with them and they with us. So, thank you.
Mr. Condon.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wear a couple of volunteer hats, and one is with the Sons of the American Revolution. We had a luncheon today and honored two law enforcement individuals, one from the Florida Highway Patrol and a Trooper Cole, who works here in the county. And I reminded him that the first ticket that I got in Florida when I moved here 23 years ago was from the Florida Highway Patrol motorcycle trooper who saw the light more red than yellow. And I said, but I learned, he said, no doubt it was Trooper Lopez. They have a name for whoever gives those tickets out. But I learned a lesson, and the lesson is that if you get a ticket, you go to driver training school, and you get a discount for 3 years on your auto insurance. And that was a valuable lesson to me, plus I started slowing down rather than speeding up at yellow lights, which helps me live a little bit longer. The second officer that was honored today was from the Clearwater Police Department, and many of you know Officer James Frederick, and he's a wonderful officer and works. I asked him, what is, well, I said, your favorite part of your job is reading books to children, isn't it? And he said, well, I really enjoy that, but I do come away wondering what diseases I picked up, what insects and things from little kids who may not be quite as learned all the facilities of sanitation that we adults have. I hope we have. But he loves doing that, and he really is a wonderful officer. I've been in many neighborhood meetings where he's in there and works out of some of the rec centers, and certainly deserving of commendation from the Clearwater chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution. I was happy to be there today.
Mr. Albritton.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to just say something about Nagano, Japan. I'm not going to steal any thunder if you had something to say about it, but I just wanted to let everybody know we were all looking really forward to a trip representing Clearwater to our sister city, Nagano, Japan, this weekend. And the last few days, a very severe typhoon hit Japan, and Nagano was very damaged. We didn't see anything in our papers here about it. National News did cover it, and I saw really some photos and videos that it almost like us getting hit with a direct hit on a hurricane here. So we are not going, but I just wanted to give them my heartfelt. I just hope that they come out of this well, and we wish them the best from the city of Clearwater.
Mr. Hamilton.
I'd like to echo what Commissioner Albritton said, or Councilmember Albritton said about Nagano. We were joking, maybe we should show up and still go on the trip, but just take our blue jeans and our work boots and go over there and try to help them recover, because it truly, they were truly devastated by this. Their typhoon, my understanding is if it correlated to a hurricane hitting us, it would be somewhere between a Cat 4 and a Cat 5. So they took a huge hit from this typhoon. And it's going to take a little while for them to recover. And I personally, and I know everyone sitting here, extends our thoughts, prayers, and hopes for their full recovery in as quick fashion as possible. Other than that, just want to wish everybody, be safe this weekend. Enjoy the Jazz Holiday. It's one of the biggest events of every year for us. Enjoy that. And weekend after this, Stone Crab Festival out on the beach. My understanding is the stone crab harvest this year so far looks a lot better than last year, because this year we're not dealing with any red tide. So get out and enjoy those stone crabs next weekend after this.
To just follow up on my colleagues, for those of you who don't know, Nagano, Japan is in the Japanese Alps. It's not even on the coastline, and yet they had tremendous flooding from like 39 inches of rain in a very short time, and the rivers overflowed. And for those of you who may be familiar with the bullet trains, the water was so high that it even flooded the bullet trains in Japan and left them unserviceable, and they haven't been running. So, as was indicated, our thoughts and prayers go out to all of those people, not only in Nagano, but throughout Japan. The Clearwater Jazz Holiday begins tomorrow, Thursday, October the 17th, and runs through Sunday, October the 20th. So we encourage people to come out and attend the Jazz Holiday. On the 18th starts the Clearwater Beach Chalk Art Festival, and also the third Fridays at the Long Center. On Saturday the 19th, we are going to have our Building Better Neighborhoods Through Sustainability conference at the Ross Norton Center beginning at 9 o'clock in the morning. Also, as was indicated, on the 25th is the Frenchy Stone Crab Weekend, the 25th, 26th, and 27th, and I'm sure some of the other restaurants will be participating. On Saturday, the 26th, is the Phil Daganero Three Bridges Race. Proceeds from that event goes to the Clearwater for Youth program. Also, on the 26th is the Community Family Fun Night at the Walter Campbell Buccaneers Field in North Greenwood. On Halloween the 31st, the Phillies and the Threshers have their annual Boo Bash at Spectrum Field. This is your opportunity to bring your children to a family fun Halloween evening of trick-or-treating. They're even going to have hay rides and a costume contest and lots of candy for everybody. Want to congratulate the Clearwater Tornadoes, who defeated the Countryside Cougars in the Clearwater Centennial Cup football game last Friday by the score of 23-21. We've invited the football team to join us at at one of our meetings coming forward. Want to again congratulate our two chambers, the Clearwater Beach Chamber and the Clearwater Regional Chamber, for unifying under the Amplify Clearwater logo and name, with the one chamber, one community, one vision as their goal. I want to remind our residents that on November the 2nd, a Saturday, the Morningside Rec Center will be the site of an Operation Shred program. Want to thank our employees who volunteered their time to participate in the United Way Day of Caring. And also on Saturday, we had an event council at the Clearwater Sailing Center that was called the Never Say Never Pirate Camp. And we had children from across the country came to Clearwater. These kids are limb disabled. Many of them don't have any arms, don't have any feet, don't have any legs, and through this pirate camp, they get to learn how to sail. They get limbs if they need them, and it was really moving to see them having a good time with their families. I know Baystar Restaurants, the Sheraton Sand Key, and other community partners help provide this no-cost weekend to the family. So again, this is the 7th year that this camp has been here in Clearwater. And one of our Paralympians, Brad Kendall, helps coordinate that. So it's one of those things that, you know, we were said earlier about people volunteering. People volunteer throughout the community all the time. And it's unfortunate that we don't recognize that sometimes, but we are deeply grateful for those hours that they give back to our community. And that's what makes Clearwater, and really every community, so very special. Thank you for spending part of your evening with us tonight. Our next meeting is going to be on Thursday, November the 7th. We are adjourned.